introduce our president, Dr. Tony Goncalves, who's going to give you some welcoming and inspiring words.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. And welcome to the 14th Annual Scholars Day. You know, we're at a university, and we all know that we do scholarly work every day. But it's important to take time out of our busy schedule to celebrate the work we do. And just walking around here quickly, and the product is amazing. And I want to acknowledge the faculty, mentors who have coached you and guided you through the hard work to arrive at these incredible projects. And I want to give special thanks to the organizing committee led by Dr. Stephanie Lee, Dr. Brett Sanner, Dr. Benjamin Gaines, and Professor Thomas Ruggiero. Please give them a round of applause. And I'm really excited to welcome our special keynote guest speaker, Tony Goncalves. Tony is an alum of Iona, and I don't have time to go through all of the accolades of his career, but I'll just give you a couple of the highlights. Tony has been through the media industry, holding a number of leadership positions. Notably, he's been the Chief Revenue Officer at Warner Media, where he oversaw a $20 billion budget in annual revenue, and maximized monetization opportunities across brands such as CNN, CBS, and TNT. Tony is also a board member of Upward League Global, which is a national organization that assists immigrants and refugees with building careers. And he's an active board member of Common Sense Media, an organization that provides ratings for media and technology with the goal of providing information on their suitability for children. As impressive and recognizable as Tony's circle of contacts is, you'll often find him across the street in the Mirage Diner meeting with students, giving his advice and sharing his own insights. And so we're incredibly grateful for Tony to be here today and to share more of his insights with this larger group. Tony is an example of what I like to remind people of, that your Iona degree, there's nothing that you can't do. So congratulations on the incredible work that you have done. Enjoy Scholars Day, and welcome to Tony Goncalves. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Obviously, I'm not Tony. I will be interviewing him. Tony wanted to do something a bit different than your typical keynote speech. And so we chose to do a kind of sit down and talk show kind of speech. So thank you for the welcome, President Carey. And we're just going to talk into a couple things. Before we do that, though, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Iona University, and I am currently a junior, majoring in media and strategic communications with a concentration in journalism. I'm also going to do my master's here. I'm enrolled in the 4+1 program in PR. And aside from that, I am features and lifestyle editor of the Iona, and next year I'll be editor-in-chief, so I'm looking forward to it. And I just want to give a special thanks to Dr. Lee and Dr. Bard for giving me this opportunity to be up here today and share the stage with Tony. And that's essentially what Scholars Day is about. As we prepare to present this project, it's important to reflect on the mentors and people that got me here. And our keynote speaker today is actually a mentor, as President Carey mentioned. So please put your necks together for our keynote speaker, Tony Goncalves. Thank you. And so we'll just hop into it, but at first I just want you to tell me a little bit about your career and describe your experience being a business executive as long as you have.
That's a very formal question that you have asked, Naomi. the future CNN anchor. Look, President Carey went through a very well-articulated and synthesized description of my career, and I'm sure it sounded as perfect to you as it sounded to me, and as linear as it actually was in real life. The reality is that's the farthest thing from the truth. I've had a wonderful journey. It's been 25 years. I've worked for some incredible brands. I've worked with and for some incredible people. I've made friends, and I've learned a ton from that journey. But it was it's the last thing it was linear, and the last thing it was perfect. And I've learned a ton of things throughout that journey. Nonetheless, being to build to build and nurture a network, and to learn every day from that network, and to tap into that network at every opportunity, and to be at the ready, right? To recognize when doors are being opened and be ready to knock them down, right, and run through them, because not everybody gets the opportunities. And so I think if there's one thing that defines my path, it's probably that. Like, I encountered some good people that opened doors, but opening those doors and walking through those doors was all on me, right? And so in those hard times, recognizing what I was optimizing for at that moment in time, and recognizing that that door was open to me and maybe not to somebody else, and making sure that I took full advantage of it.
Nice. And I mean, I'd like to go back to the start. So you're obviously an Iona alumni. And so could you just tell me a little bit about your experience at Iona?
Yeah, much different than yours. We have, the best way I can express that is, Rosemary, my wife, who's here today, who to be on. Rosemary and I have two kids. Olivia is a freshman in college. And when she was actually going, we were looking for high schools for her, she was really nervous. And she says to me, she goes, Dad, you know, I mean, like, when you were looking at for high schools, like, it was really hard, right? Like, you didn't know what to prioritize. And I was like, yeah, no, I went to that high school because it was close and cheap. And then she goes, I know, but like, okay, like, when you were looking for colleges, Dad, like, you know, this stuff is really hard. And I was like, nope, I went to what was close and cheap. And it happened to be Iona. And it was an awesome experience. But my time at Iona, I was a commuter. I worked a lot. And I was in a rush to get out. So I did not take advantage of days like today. I did not take advantage of student life. I wasn't an independent, on-campus resident. You know, I came to school, I did what I needed to do. I left, I went to work, I studied, I came back, rinse and repeat for 4 years, and it had to be 4 years because, you know, I couldn't afford for it to be any longer. So I would say that my journey was extremely different, right, than most, or at least the journeys that we're so privileged to be able to give our kids. Nonetheless, I took every bit, every ounce of what this school gave me, and have used it throughout my career and my life.
And as you know, you spoke about you being a commuter and having to balance work and school and all that stuff. There are many students probably who have to do the same thing. Is there any advice you'd give to them?
Yeah, look, that's a great question. I get asked, as you can imagine, a whole lot, and throughout my career, I've gotten asked a lot about balance. Like, how do you balance? I actually hate that word. I don't believe in balance. I believe in optimization, which is different than prioritization, right? And so, what are you optimizing for at that moment in time? And so, there were times when I was commuting that I had to, you know, optimize for my finals. And therefore, like, my social life had to, you know, get put on pause. You know, there were weekends where, you know, it would hurt. Like, I'd have a hard time, I'd be so tired, but I'd have such a hard time getting sleep because I was hurting, like physically hurting, because I was working all weekend and then studying. But the optimization was, you know, for that weekend needed to be the work, right? And so I think throughout life, throughout your career, throughout your time here at Iona, there are going to be really stressful moments. There are going to be moments that you're going to be completely overwhelmed. And I think it's really, really important to understand what we're optimizing for, both in that period of time, but what you're ultimately optimizing for, right? What the macro objective is.
And your academic disciplines at Iona?
Yeah, look, a lot. I mean, this is a period of time where you're being shaped, whether you know it or not. And you're being shaped, but you're also shaping yourself, right? And so, I think back to some of the classes that I took and reflecting on some of the good and some of the bad, right? Production Operation Management, POM. Never in my life would I tell you that I was one of those well-organized human beings. I got an A in that class, but I got an A in that class because of a professor that cared. And that cared about me getting an A in that class, right? That's helped me be a better leader as I've grown, and as I've had thousands of people working for me, understanding that part of my role was to extract the best out of them, right? So that's that's just a great example of how what you're going through right now, right, as students here at Iona, how you'll carry that with you throughout your life and throughout your career, because it's moments like that that become a baseline for your future.
And I guess you can speak more about some of those struggles. I think a lot of us, find ourselves struggling at times. And if there's any moment that comes to mind or any memory in particular of a struggle and how you overcame that, can you share that with the audience?
Yeah, look, I can share many. There were probably more than I care to share. But I think it's important to step back here a little bit and give you just an understanding of my background. I came to this country when I was 4 years old from Portugal. We're a product of chain migration. My dad's brother came here. My dad came, worked in a car wash for a few months, swore he'd never come back because it was cold. And 2 months later, my mom, my dad, and myself were on a TWA 747 that I remember so clearly, on our way here. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. I was 4 years old. I went into kindergarten without speaking English. And I remember this moment when my best friend, they're friends when you speak different languages and you're still friends, and you can communicate. We were playing, and he was speaking to me in English, and I was speaking to him in Portuguese. And I'll never forget that moment because he didn't judge me, right? He accepted me for who I was. And I think about that in the balance of my career and the balance of my life. There were moments where, I'm not sure that I knew the path, right? Or the path might have not been aligned with my values and my principles. But I was always focused on the outcome, right? And so I think about my time here at Iona. It wasn't linear. It was actually quite difficult, given sort of, the fact that I was a commuter, the fact that I didn't have parents that understood that they needed to push me. But I had people here at the school that did care, and sort of helped me through. And so I think I would wrap that up in just saying that, understanding the outcome and understanding the objective, understanding what you're doing things for, and being anchored in sort of your values and sort of your individuality is extremely, extremely valuable. And my struggles throughout my early sort of childhood is what gave me the fortitude to sort of plow through.
And how have those struggles inspired you to participate in groups like the grassroots organization that you do participate in that helps immigrants find careers? How has that encouraged you to, find those jobs and help others?
Well, I go back to being rooted in your values, right? And so, Upwardly Global, the organization that I'm on the board of, is hyper-focused on one objective, right? and that is to ensure that skilled immigrants and refugees find work in their field. I think about the struggles that, Rosemary and my parents had kind of coming here. Had it not been for a network, and for us it was a community, and it was a community of like-minded individuals that sort of lived to help each other. That doesn't exist in today's society for immigrants and refugees. I actually joke that I was an immigrant before it was cool to be an immigrant. It's kind of not cool to be an immigrant in certain circles. And so giving these folks a voice and a community, right, is extremely rewarding. So, but I think had I not had the struggles that I had and the beginning that I had, I don't know that I would have understood or empathized as much as I do and taken the role that I have in that organization as seriously as I do.
And how much would you say does your culture and the fact that you are an immigrant yourself inspire the work you do? And I know you already touched on it a bit, but if you could touch on it some more.
Yeah, look, I'll just give you an example. When folks, when I get asked to sort of summarize or tell my story, or the first thing I do is I say, look, I was, if you've ever seen the Flintstones, like that's where I was born. And have you ever seen the Flintstones? Yeah, good. I am dating myself. I'm turning 50 very soon. So Flintstones and the Jetsons. No, but that is that's who I am. And I wear it, I feel it, and I hope it comes through. But there is rarely, if there is ever an opportunity to share that element of who I am and where I came from and how that has helped shape who I am today, I take the opportunity.
And speaking of your roles of leadership, how important is it to have diversity and inclusion, and how do you incorporate that into your work?
Yeah, it's extremely important, and it's become even more important because it's become obvious that in certain areas or in certain aspects, there isn't a sufficient amount, and so there's an incredible amount of work I think that needs to be done. At Warner, I became the champion, right, of having a workforce that reflects the consumer set that we're serving. And it, it's not always popular to sort of take stands, and it's extremely difficult to break routines. And so I'll give you a great example. In 21, we had a group that wanted to start a Jewish culture ERG, Employment Resource Group. And in corporations, just like in academia, there's processes. And there wasn't a process for a religious organization. I went to the mat for that group because it was extremely important to them at a moment in time where anti-Semitism was on the rise. We figured out a path, and we gave them a voice, we gave them a platform, and it became a lot more than about religion, it became about culture. And now actually seeing the public service announcements the PSAs that are out there with the blue square on anti-Semitism actually gives me an incredible amount of joy. So I use that example because I believe E&I is much more than race and gender. And people like me have brought diversity of thought and an understanding and an empathy to the organizations that we've led. And I think there's an element here of diversity, and that's extremely valuable.
And now looking back a bit, we can go back to Iona. So, talking about these setbacks, were there any in particular that now you look at as something that gave you an advantage?
I'll tell you a good one. I don't know if faculty and leadership here at Iona are going to be happy about this, but I graduated in 1995, not the greatest economy. I can't say that I knew exactly where I wanted to go to work or what I wanted to do, but I also don't think that I have the resources that you all do at that moment in time. And needless to say, I was extremely frustrated, but it was that grit that mom and dad, came with, and that grit that I had as a child, and I was relentless. And so I ended up going to the career development office, and I said, and she's like, I clearly forget the woman's name. I think the comment was something like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to be a product manager. Quite frankly, I don't really know that I don't think I knew what that was, other than it sounded cool. And I probably done some research. And the advice I was given was to go back and get an MBA at a top 10 school and graduate top 10 and then go apply to Coca-Cola. I was like, wow, that's going to be pretty hard. Like, it was hard enough coming to Iona. How am I going to do that? But I ended up being the assistant product marketing manager of, a product at Sharp Electronics. And so I think here's the mountain, here's some path on how to climb it, but I'm not quite sure you're going to get there. It's sort of like, I guess that element of a challenge is, really helped me. So so that might be classified as a setback. I don't know. I think I took it as an opportunity.
And what advice would you give to young scholars today who are hoping to excel in their fields of work and study?
Get some sleep. In all fields of study. I finally got a little chuckle out of you guys. Like, it's okay. Like, loosen up, people. It's all right. So I say that jokingly, but I actually mean it. Good habits are really hard to form. Bad habits are really hard to break. I will tell you, find routines. And sleep would be a really good routine. But in everything, whether it be, a routine on exercising, a routine on eating, a routine on just healthcare in general, a routine on taking a break every once in a while. So I think good habits, would be one sort of piece of advice for you. The second one is what I believe ultimately I took away from being here at Iona, which is, be a self-advocate. Learn how to be a personal capitalist. Yep, you're going to be loyal to your friends. Yep, you're going to be loyal to your family. Yep, you're going to be loyal to your classmates. You're going to be loyal to a company, to a job. But at the end of the day, you have to learn how to be loyal to yourself. And that, we can have a whole session on that, by the way, whenever you're ready. But I really, truly believe that, being a good self-advocate, knowing when to step up and ask questions, and knowing when to step up and take opportunities that help you achieve what your ultimate goals might be is extremely valuable. And then the last thing I will tell you is don't underestimate the value of a network. You're building a network today. Those of you that are graduating, or those of you that are looking for jobs, go on LinkedIn, look for Iona alum. Build relationships with people that are in your field of study. Your network will only grow with you. I didn't learn the value of a network until the day I turned 40, when somebody was like, look at this, like, you've built a great career, and look what you've done for your family. And I sort of like reflected back, and I was like, I'm actually not even quite sure how all of this happened. And then I started thinking about the next phase, because man, nobody wants to work forever, right? And the next phase really meant that I had to go deep into my network and try to broaden my network, and quite frankly, build one. And I'm sitting here today, a job seeker, like many seniors. And it's not headhunters and it's not posts. It's my network that's really helping me do that.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for joining me on stage today. Everybody, can you please give him a... So now we'll be moving on to the poster presentations. You guys can stick around and linger and look at those. And yes, thank you once again for having me and Tony.
Actually, can I say one more thing? How about a nice big round of applause for Iona? You did an incredible job. Right? 4 + 1, and you're going to do it in less than 4 + 1.
Yep.
All right? So great job, and thank you, guys.